let's start with some controversial news. Paul Pogba,
Mm.
who currently, I believe, is waiting for his B sample to be tested regarding a doping scandal, whilst being or trying to get fit to return back for Juventus. Now, it's a bit of a crazy one because I kind of feel sorry for Paul Pogba. I'm not gonna lie, I do a little bit. I feel like he's always been the guy that's been, whether he does right or wrong, he's always the guy that people use as a scapegoat for things. Do you know what I mean? Especially his time at United. You think about the English press, the way that they dealt with him. But do you feel that this could be the end for Paul Pogba in terms of his football career? The age is, I think he's 30 now, isn't he? He's around 30.
Yeah.
He's coming to that point where if he gets a lengthy ban, it could be a very long time for him out of the footballing world.
Yeah, man. I don't even know where to begin because I don't want to call it. No, actually, it is a downfall. Let me not even beat around the bush. It is a downfall. We're talking about someone who 5 years ago was on top of the world as a World Cup winner. You know what I mean? With France, was one of the players that led them to the trophy with his brilliance on the ball, midfield with Kante in front of him, Mbappe. Like just he brought his quality to the table. Before that, he had come back to United for a massive fee, helped us win 2 trophies in his first season, as well as Mourinho's first season. Before that, Juve, league titles, Champions League finalist. But after the World Cup win, I come back to United, and you spoke about United. Well, I always say you can't expect the consistency from players when there is no consistency anywhere within the club, and that's what he was part of. But also, we also are advocates of self-analysis, and sometimes as a player, you just got to say sometimes, regardless, I just haven't played well, and he wasn't playing well. A lot of injuries. Sometimes he'll come back and just go on a spell where he'd find the old Paul Pogba again. But his last season United was just injury after injury. Went to the game at Anfield, got injured within the first 5 minutes, and you didn't see him until what was it, like January the next year for Juve, and even then he got injured again. And it's injury after injury. You've got the stuff with his brother, the apparent witch doctor scandal, and now drugs. Well, potentially. We don't know.
Yeah, alleged. Yeah.
It's all alleged right now. Obviously, he's been suspended because they found something, but it's just a case of figuring out, number one, just how intentful it was, and number two, of course, waiting for that second sample. If there's further evidence, he's in trouble, man. It might be the end, man, and that's sad for me to say because he's one of those players that I really enjoyed watching, even when he was inconsistent. At times, looking at him and the way he just was able to move the ball, I am a big fan of entertainers, and I don't feel that we have many more entertainers left in the game of football. I think we praise the guys that are very much, I don't want to call them system players, but they just hit their system to a T. So and of course, they got technical ability to do crazy things with the football. But entertainment is more than just hitting the ball hard or a lovely pass, or being a good dribbler, but nothing more. Like, we had players that gave everything. Pogba was a dribbler, he was a passer, he was a shooter. You know what I mean? Like, he had the whole bag. Watching his downfall is, oh man, it's emotional for me, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. It's emotional because he should be on top of the world. He should be a Ballon d'Or winner. That's the kind of quality that he had. You know what I mean? But it's just not worked out. It's peak. It's peak. I will forever defend him because the media, I think, bullied him. That's the word I'm going to use. They were bullies on Paul Pogba, as well as other players, but Pogba more so. We know what reasons they were as well. Don't have to go too far into that. I think we all know what. But yeah, man. I just hope that B sample comes back clean because otherwise, bro, he's done, man. He's done. I don't know who will pick him up after that. It's too much. There's too much. There's too much that's going on.
I feel like this is kind of a last chance saloon for him in terms of just trying to maybe get himself, not even get his career back on track, but just kind of going to play some football away from the madness that the press kind of was constantly onto him. Even I remember times at United, he was being criticised for things. He was injured. Like he'd be the reason United were losing because he was injured, and then when he plays, he still gets criticised because he's not doing enough on the pitch, so he could never win. But in terms of the allegations around the doping and the additional testosterone that wasn't found, like the unnatural levels of testosterone that's found in him. Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, look, if he has and he's guilty, then of course, yeah, you got to face the punishments that come with that. I think Onana was it not similar for Onana? I think he got a 12-month ban at one point, maybe a couple of seasons ago now. But I think, look, I mean, Pogba is a very good player, still is, and one of the best. Like you said, a Ballon d'Or should have easily been, under in his trophy cabinet somewhere because he's that good of a player. It's just a shame to see. I suppose injuries have plagued him a lot, over his times, even before United, even before you re-signed him, he was still heavily, picking up knocks here, there, and everywhere, and injuries that we've seen him out for long periods of the game. But yeah, it's just a shame to see someone with that much quality kind of fall off so quickly as well, because it seems like he's at that point now. I think it's 31. I think next March he turns 31. So let's say, he gets the ban, which sometimes these things can take a while as well. I'm sure there'll be an appeal process for him as well. If he is found guilty, he'll be able to appeal, I'm sure, of some sort. But I mean, it's not looking good for him at all. He's only just come back from injury as well, I think, for Juve.
Yep.
I mean, let's say, for instance, he does get found guilty. I'm not sure how long's left on his contract as well. But if for instance, he does get found guilty and he's banned for, let's say, 12 to 18 months or whatever, and I think the only solution for me really is to probably go to the Saudi league for a year or two, whether they would take him, whether a club would pick him up. But I think maybe that just to, kind of end your career some way. But it's a shame. What do you think would be next for Popov if he was to be found guilty and was to be subsequently banned as well?
Sorry. Yeah. I think Saudi Arabia will probably be his best shout, or America, one of those two. That's not us saying that that's the only way he can get back into football, because you never know. Some players, they have bans and they come back, and big teams still want them because they know what the quality is. Or even if it's not a big team, you want to say at least medium size. And Saudi Arabia and MLS are, they're trying to still build their reputations after many years and get quality players in there to build a reputation. So they go from being known as, I guess, in terms of size, small clubs, because they're not worldwide clubs, to becoming a major institution in the game. That's what they're trying to do. And players like Paul Pogba, just the name alone will carry weight. So yeah, I think those two leagues rather would be the best shout for him. But I can't lie to you, man. It would peak. Yeah, man. I want to see him in Europe, but it's just Juve is literally his last place, and Juve got him because, quite frankly, the relationship between him and the club is beautiful.
Solid. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's solid. They'll look after him. They'll make sure he's fine. And I feel like they're looking at him and saying, Paul, like, it's not like United where, quite frankly, it's not just Paul Pogba. United don't protect their players. I'm just going to just call a spade a spade. United don't protect their players. Don't know how to. And when their players don't need protection, rather need discipline, they don't have to do that either. They just move stupid. At Juve is a family club. No matter what scandals they've gone through, if you build a genuine, beautiful relationship with the club and its fans, they'll do everything and anything for you. Anything and everything. Someone like Chiellini could leave the MLS tomorrow and say, I need a club, and Juve will say, well, home's always here for you. That's the kind of stuff you understand. Paul Pogba went there in his younger years, took a bet on himself at 19 and said, I can play, and stood along some of the greats in that midfield and shone alongside them. They respect him, but they need him to find himself, because they're not going to have this Paul Pogba. No way, man.
Yeah.
And just for himself, I read an article. I'm not sure how legitimate it is. Apparently, he had an interview where he just said sometimes he's got to a point where he wishes like he wasn't even like making so much money. He just wants to be a normal guy. He's tired of the circus around him. Obviously, he loves football, so he'll forever play it. But if he could just be a footballer and have people leave him alone, it would be beautiful. Because this is someone that gets criticized for getting a haircut.
That's great.
It's a trim.
I don't even mean to banner it, but it's mad because there's certain footballers like, I think it was it Phil Foden at the World Cup, or one of them got blonde hair, and it wasn't. It was almost spun in a positive light. Whereas when Pogba does it, it's like, oh, he's doing that for attention on the pitch, and he's not even playing football well. So why is he getting a haircut like that? And it's like, because it's his hair, it's his head. He can do what he wants with it. Like, who are we to tell him how to cut his hair? But it's yeah, it's tough. I'm hoping that B sample, because I think the B sample has to be tested. I think it's 3 days after the positive test, and then I think the results have to come back within the next 7 days. So I think whilst we're recording this Wednesday, it should hopefully by at least after the weekend we should know what that B sample is saying. And I think if you're, I don't know, like with boxing as well, I know it's kind of slightly different, but you know, with Conor Ben, you know, and obviously the reasons for the the testing, the way that it was dealt with around the eggs, consuming too many eggs and stuff with Conor.
Yeah.
I know there are, whether you want to call it legitimate or non-legitimate reasons, but there's things that possibly could be the reason why these things are happening. So I think, you know, a lot of people trial and error on social media. They probably found him guilty already, but I think you just have to wait for the cause to take the things to happen, you know, just to see how it's going to go. But yeah, man, it's not looking good for Paul Pogba. And another player, it's not looking good for another United. I can't keep sticking with United at the moment. It's always United. I don't want to talk about Anthony. I'm not going to talk about him. But Jadon Sacho obviously seems to be. I think it was your tweet I read this morning or maybe last night around, you know, player gets approved holiday, and yeah, people are in outrage, and it's mad to me because, for context, that anyone doesn't know, obviously there was a conversation I think between Eric Ten Hag and Jadon Sancho before the Arsenal game. He wasn't going to be selected for that game. Comments were made after the game to Ten Hag as to why he wasn't in the squad, and I think it was more from what Ten Hag said around not training well, not basically proving himself to be in the starting 11 or even in the match day squad. Sancho came out with his own personal statement they released on social media. Obviously, international break, so Sancho's not included in Southgate's plans either, and he's on holiday with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now, most players, Raheem Sterling done it. You know, players go on holiday if they're not. That's their time. I know. He plays for Rangers. I know Cantwell went away. I seen him go on holiday as well. People following him around the airport. So this is what players do on international break if they're not selected. But there seems to be this mad outrage again, very similar to what happened at Paul Pogba's situation at United, where you can't just live life. We're criticizing him for going on holiday that's been approved by the manager. But do you see a future for Jadon Sancho at United following that kind of very public spat, if you can call it that, between manager and player?
Yeah. I would actually be very disappointed with Man United and Ten Hag if this is the reason why we don't see Sancho United shirt again. Because for me, this isn't that big an issue. If I'm being deadly serious, and a lot of people will say, "What you can't talk to the manager like that. You can't do." This is not the same generation. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I would have said, "No, you can't do that," because I know what happens. You know what I mean? It opens up another kind of worms rather. For me, it's not that big a deal, man. He should be wearing a shirt soon. I don't think we'll see him this weekend. Maybe next weekend. Maybe the disconnect for me is, number one. Obviously, him and Ten Hag have very different views on what's a good training session. That's quite clear because Sancho, in that statement, said that he believes he's been good in training. He's been fine, so that's not the issue. So there's a disconnect there. They need to communicate that better between each other. Number two, I am not a fan of managers coming out into the press, whether it's an interview or whatever, and saying basically this guy's been crap at training. I don't want to hear that. Don't say it loud. Say he's just not in the squad. I didn't pick him for this training, for this game. That's it. Simple as that. Move on. Number three, at the same time, I'm not a fan of players coming back and, you know, putting out a statement which pretty much beefs the manager in public, because you don't need that attention around you and the club. But at the same time, my guy, let's be very real. This is not going to be no political statement. He's from Ends. If you talk about man from Ends, he's coming back with a statement. He's coming for you. That's not happening. He ain't gonna sit there and be like, "I say less." No, he's gonna come and say, "No, we ain't running that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's part of him. Whether people want him to not have that or not, that's part of his DNA. He's from the Ends. Anyone, whether you're from South, East, North, maybe West a little bit, if man them talk crud on your name, you will retort. It's just simple. If I live a very simple life. If someone comes to talk crud on my name and one of my friends call me and say, "Yo, this guy's been talking mad," I'm coming from saying, "Yo, what are you saying?" Like, it's just what it is.
It's yeah,
So, that's part of his DNA. Whether he should keep that or not, that's another discussion. Me personally, I like that part of him because I feel like you need to keep your character. That's where you're from. That's where you are. But to me, bro, it's not that big a deal, man. If I'm being very honest, I think Man United fans blow things way out of proportion and they're way too emotional. But I've always said this: Man United fans are spoiled,
mm.
very, very spoiled.
Same with
And
Chelsea. You know that already, but same thing.
yeah, yeah, and it's all because we've been successful in the past
Mm.
couple of those years. And as soon as we have a period where we're not winning, it's like, oh, this guy sucks. This guy's not good enough. Why are you doing this? Why? Football happens in cycles, man. Liverpool were once upon a time one of the most dominant teams in the world, and then
Hundred
they went
percent.
30 years and didn't win one league title. They came close, but they didn't win, and
Mm.
they were watching everyone just surpass them year after the other. And then one day it came back together again, and they won a league title. It's just part of the business. Sancho will be fine, in my opinion, but I will say this: if his future's not United, I'm not gonna be mad at him. Go and thrive somewhere else. I watch football to be entertained. And if he's going to go and play somewhere else and play well and entertain me somewhere else, then so be it. But I want him to stay. Yeah, it's not a big a deal to me, man. And that's why I made that statement on Twitter. Because how can you be mad about someone going on holiday?
It's it's mad. It
It
is
doesn't make
mad.
sense, man. It doesn't make sense. He shouldn't catch a flight because he hasn't played well. I guess he shouldn't have his favorite meal at home because he hasn't played well either. What are we doing here?
It is
What are we
mad.
doing here?
It's the world that we live in, though. Because I remember it's happened a couple of times. I remember it happened a lot with Sterling when I think I'm going back years when he brought his mama. I think he brought his mama a house or something like that after like a defeat. And
Mm.
the press were like, Raheem Sterling buys a house. And I see it with Rashford, they say Rashford goes to get breakfast in his McLaren or something mad. And it's like, well, what do you want him to do? You want him to starve? Like you want him to get the bus. You want him to walk. Like, come on, these are natural things that we all
But
have to do.
that's the thing, though. If he took a bus, they'll criticize him and say, "But you got cars. Why are you
Yeah.
taking a bus?"
Why
It's
you
like
wait?
Sterling. I remember my favorite one was when Sterling went to Greg's
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
they talked about the price of what he bought. I'm like, guys,
yeah, yeah.
it's a sausage roll. Like,
It's
let
mad.
the guy eat.
It's mad. It is mad. It is mad. And I think you're right around Sancho. I think one of the things I read was that there wasn't clearance from Sancho to express to the public what Eric Ten Hag did in terms of speaking
Mm,
on that after the game on the Sunday against Arsenal. And I think it works two ways. And if you want respect, and this is with anything, not just football, but if you want respect, you got to give it. So if you're not willing to respect the players, maybe he told Ten Hag, don't release the fact that I'm going through something, or I think it wasn't the Sunday, it wasn't the
it
comments from
was
the
the
Sunday, it was when he was going through a period where he had
yeah,
to come out of the game and he went to Netherlands to sort of just train and recuperate a little bit. So that was not meant to be privy to the world, but it somehow got Ten Hag just kind of blurted it out. So if you can't respect your players' wishes to keep certain things of his private life private, then of course, yeah, you got to retaliate. You got to speak up, and it's nice to hear players not be robots because when you hear them talk, sometimes they just sound like robots. When they're doing post-match press conference and this and that, they literally are media trained to the T. So sometimes you need that player to come out and say, you know what, no, I'm not having that. You can't talk on my name like it's just anything. Yeah, I might play for the club. I gotta have a bit of respect because you're the manager, and I gotta, you know, but you can't just come out and keep talking willy nilly, and then for me to just sit there and not say anything because when you do that, a lot of people on social media, fans or whatever, they just hang on every single word the manager says from then on in. So
mm,
you could be playing well, you could be banging goals in, but as soon as the manager says something, that's what the fans remember. Oh, look, that's why he's not in the team, or that's why he's getting subbed off because the manager. Da, 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 da. So it's for me. I like to see that. I think again, like you, I think he'll be fine at the club. These things must, in fact, not must. These things do happen in clubs
fact,
up and down
fact.
the country. The only difference is they normally stay in house, and we don't hear about it. So these things sometimes, when like you look at a team sheet and I'll use that. I don't know. I'm not saying this has happened, but like Caicedo's not in the team, and you think, bro, we need Caicedo for this game, but da 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 da. Da. This is why he's not in the team because there's clearly
Fact.
something that's happened in the training ground or in the manager's office, and he's just said, "No, you're not playing this weekend." And then when he's asked in the press, he says, "Just it's just a thing. He's just being rested, or he didn't fit what I needed him for the." Do you know what I mean? They cover it up with something, but it's just one of those public things that should have stayed in house. It's just spilled out into the public, so I think he'll be fine. I think people are making a massive deal out of something that realistically, it'll be in United's best interest to make sure they've got Sancho playing at the level that they want him to play. Whether he thinks he's there or not, then that's a different conversation. But if they're saying that he's not there, then he just needs to continue doing what he's doing and try and improve. And then he'll be back in the squad, in my opinion, anyway.